Hello, everyone. Welcome to this live stream. I hope you all doing good. Yes, I'm saying hello from a beautiful day in Sweden. Today, we're going to discuss John Locke's thoughts on substance and personal identity. So, how are you guys doing? Are you all good today? Hope you can hear me properly. Oh, can you hear me? Yeah, it sounds very good. So, today, as I said, we'll talk about substance and personal identity, all of which can be found in John Locke's essay concerning human understanding. So, as I've said loads of times these past weeks, John Locke's uh, philosophy is really grounded in experience. According to him, we are born as blank slates. We have nothing really when it comes to human understanding prior to our birth. And there are only two different types of experiences according to Locke, those being either sensory experience, things we experience through our senses, such as smell, seeing something, feeling something, etc. You know what I mean. And then we have reflection, which is basically us, our mind reflecting upon those experiences. Oh, hello, Wahid. Hope you're doing good. I'm delighted to hear from you again. So let's see. There we are. So, and the main thing that really is that our mind really only receives simple ideas from the objects. And then our mind can then create complex ideas from these simple ideas. And a simple idea could be something like hardness or coldness or sweetness, for instance. And from these, we can create complex ideas, such as substances. Because that is the thing. Something that is a substance is in reality a complex idea, which is actually a bit of a problem. It's a bit of a conundrum. We'll get to that. So, because according to John Locke, the human mind cannot fully comprehend substance. A substance can possess different qualities. We've talked about these. It's either primary qualities, such as something being extended in space, or secondary qualities, such as color or sweetness. And the main distinction between these two is that the secondary qualities in reality are merely powers. I think I mentioned that powers is a category in and of itself, but in reality, we only have powers or primary qualities, because secondary qualities is merely a power in the object that the power the power to give us certain sensory experience. Do you know what I mean? So, so the main thing is that, oh, sorry, I lost it a little bit. So the main thing is here is that our mind can really only, like I said, perceive simple ideas, be it primary qualities or secondary qualities. But uh, like I said, a substance is a complex idea. Let me explain this further. If we have a block of ice, for instance, that is a compound of simple ideas. So it is a set of simple ideas. But what then? But since our mind can only perceive simple ideas, distinguish simple ideas, we cannot perceive a complex whole, then we cannot really perceive the substance in and of itself. Do you know what I mean? Does it make sense? So I wanted to give you guys a quote here from Locke. So here he writes, hence, when we talk or think of any particular sort of corporeal substance, as horse, stone, etc., though the idea we have of either of them be but the complication or collection of those several simple ideas of sensible qualities, which we use to find united in the thing called horse or stone. Yet because we cannot conceive how they should subsist alone, nor one in another, we suppose them existing in and supported by some common subject, which support we denote by the name of substance, though it be certain we have no clear or distinct idea of that thing we suppose a support. So this is actually quite interesting, because so what he's saying is that we cannot fully perceive substance in it of itself, because it is the thing which supports simple ideas. We merely perceive the simple ideas. Does it make sense? I thought that that was quite intriguing. Oh, it's kind of a it's kind of tricky to understand. Well, could I explain it a bit better, maybe? Because I sort of think that it makes sense. If we take the block of ice again, I mean, the block of ice has the qualities such as being hard or slippery or cold, but I have, but I cannot fully perceive the block of ice as a substance, because the substance itself is is the thing which support all the simple ideas that I mentioned. You know what I'm saying? So it's, yeah, I know it's a bit tricky. I don't think I can explain it better than that, but well. So, but let's continue. I'll see if I can think of something, a uh, better example maybe. But if we then move further, um, because the thing is that we can, in the same manner, we can then our mind can compose or create immaterial substances as well, such as spirit. Because when our mind reflect upon our ideas that we perceive from sensory experience, or are reflecting really, we can then compound these uh, ideas, such as simple ideas such as thought, freedom, willing, all of these things that really exist within our mind, and then compound them into the idea, the complex of a idea, the complex idea of immaterial substance, which is what John Locke refers to as spirit, or I think soul as well. And this we gain ideas. And the thing is, what's interesting here is that our idea, the thing is that these two different ideas of substances are both complex, both the immaterial and the material. And according to Locke, both of them, we can neither really comprehend immaterial substance nor material substance. They are according to Locke, sort of on par metaphysically, I would say, because they are more or less the complex stuff from which we cannot perceive in it of itself. Let's see. That had one beginning in is the same thing, and that which had a different beginning in time and place, and that is not the same, but diverse. Oh, but that is about the personal identity thing, right? I think we'll get to that though. Anyway, so yeah, but I wanted to mention that according to many philosophers during John Locke's time uh, thought that, I believe that many philosophers during his time thought that the immaterial substance of the soul, or something like, was really something that we had a real clear and distinct idea of, while substance was outside of us, which could be not so clear. But according to Locke, since, as I mentioned, both of them are on par, we have um, neither a clear idea of immaterial substance nor of material substance. So now I wanted to get into the whole identity over time. Do you guys, Wahid, have you heard about the chip of Theseus example? It's quite, what is it, a famous one. And this really starts off the whole debate about identity over time. Let's get into the chip of Theseus, because it's a fun example, and it's probably one of those. If you just explain the example of chip of Theseus, most people, even if they're not into philosophy, like, oh, damn, that's a tough question, right? Okay, so the whole thing is that, let's say that Theseus is going to sail the world in one of his ships, and when he starts his voyage, he some of his parts of the ship is rotten and needs replacement. So he stops at various ports all along the way, and when he returns to Athens, basically all of the parts of the ship have been replaced. That would we say that the ship is the same ship that he started off with? Or if it's not the same ship, at what point during the voyage did it change identity? And here's the thing, I mean, a ship might seem banal or easy, but us humans work similarly, right? Mostly all of the particles of my body have changed. So, but I would still say that I am the same person I was 30 years ago, right? So this is actually quite an interesting debate, and John Locke has written quite a lot about this. And his ideas still live on actually on this topic. Yeah, it certainly is a paradox. John Locke's thoughts about this. First, we just need to acknowledge one principle, because it seems as though that it is impossible that two different things, to be at the same place at the same time, right? That seems impossible. So from that simple thought, we can then conclude that whenever we see one thing, at the same place at different times, we always think that it is the same thing. So already here we have an idea of something persisting through time, right? And then John Locke actually talks about atoms a little bit. I wanted to give you guys another quote. Was it 297? Yeah. Let us then suppose an atom, i.e. a continued body under one immutable superficies, existing in a determined time and place. 'Tis evident that, considered in any instant of its existence, it is in that instant the same with itself. For being at that instant what it is, and nothing else, it is the same, and so must continue as long as its existence continued. For, I mean, this is pretty self-explanatory. I mean, what he's basically saying is just an atom is the same thing. It is the same atom throughout its whole lifespan. But then he continues here. In like manner, if two or more atoms be joined together into the same mass, every one of those atoms will be the same by the foregoing rule, and whilst they exist united together, the mass consists of the same atoms, must be the same mass or the same body. Let the parts be never so differently jumbled. But if one of these atoms be taken away, or one new one added, it is no longer the same mass or the same body. So, I mean, this is all common sense. And I would say what I just said just also reflects upon how we use our language. For instance, if now we're talking atoms, we can also talk about rocks, for instance. If I have one big rock and decide to cut it in half, now I don't have two halves of the old rock, right? We will probably say that I have two new rocks, if that makes sense, right? But then if we discuss living things, it's rather different. So he actually continues here further. Oh, where was I? In the state of living creatures, their identity depends not on mass of the same particles, but on something else. So this is actually quite interesting. He claims that we use, at least when we talk about things, we we have different concepts of something persisting through time, depending upon if it's a living creature or, let's say, inanimate objects such as rocks or mountains or oceans. You know what I mean? Because let's take the example of a tree, because we cannot form the identity of a tree through its mass in the same way, right? Because if we just see it as through, let's see, since it's, I mean, a tree is ever changing. If we did see it, a tree through its mass, or I mean, define a tree through its mass, it would never be the same tree. A tree begins as a seed or an acorn and ends as a big tree. But the thing is that this acorn is the same throughout the tree's lifespan. So the tree's identity is basically its whole life cycle. So we define the persistence through time as its life cycle and not its bulk of mass, if that makes sense. Oh yeah, would he? Oh, I haven't read so much Voltaire. Lovely. Thank you so much for that, Wahid. Can you refer me to a specific place in or book? But I also want to say that if you cut off a branch from a tree, you cut off a part of that tree, right? That's tree identity is still unchanged. But like I said with the rocks, if you cut a rock in half, the identity is changed as it seems, right? What do you guys think? Would you say that if I cut a rock in half, do we have two rocks or two halves of an old rock? Ah, yeah. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I've actually read Candide. Um, which part are you referring to? Oh, yeah. Definitely, yeah. What's his name? Pangloss in the book. So it is a good book, and it's rather short as well. But I also wanted to continue here. Where was yeah? Because it seems as though we humans or animals as well are worse in the. I mean, we talk about animals and humans in the same way as we talk about trees that I mentioned. Philosophical dictionaries. Yep, it's always good to be a philosophical dictionary. Oh, where was I? Yes, another quote. Yeah, so now we're talking about humans, I believe. Personal, no, excuse me. 299. Oh, here it is. This also shows wherein the identity of the same man consists in nothing but a participation of the same continued life, by constantly fleeting particles of matter in succession vitally united to the same organized body. So basically, the definition of a man, or the definition of a man persisting through time, is being a member of a certain species, that being Homo sapiens, through his whole life cycle. And that's it, really. And but then, during the time of Locke, there was many philosophers, I believe, who argued that the definition of a man, or I mean, the way a man persisted through time was because he was defined as uh, his his identity was the same thing as his soul, or so. But then we run into troubles here, really, according to Locke, because if we discuss reincarnation, and this is actually, yeah, if we discuss reincarnation, the thing is, if we let's say that Caesar and Socrates actually possesses the same soul, but if soul is the thing which enables a man to persist through time, then we must say that Caesar and Socrates is the same man. But that would be weird, right? So that doesn't really work. But there was many philosophers who thought that the definition or a man was identical with his soul, or in his immaterial substance. So where was I? So that didn't really work. So what we need actually is something else, and now we get into the really interesting stuff, which is the definition of a person and personal identity. And I've actually mentioned this definition of personhood quite a lot recently in some of my episodes on ethics, because Peter Singer uses this definition quite frequently. So Locke rejects the idea of a fixed, unchanged substance or soul that defines personal identity. Yeah, yeah. More or less. I mean, he bases the whole thing. Yeah, I mean, personal identity. Well, let me read you guys this quote. So let's see. There we go. This being premised to find wherein personal identity consists, we must consider what person stands for, which I think is a thinking, intelligent being that has reason and reflection and can consider itself as itself, the same thing, the same thinking thing in different times and places, which it does only by that consciousness which is inseparable from thinking, and as it seems to me essential to it, it being impossible for anyone to perceive without perceiving that he does perceive. So here we have basically his definition of um personal identity, which is basically, if I perceive myself have as the conscious being surviving through time, if I think myself as being one one being persisting through time, I am conscious of my uh, past experience, then I'm basically a person. Because according to Locke, personhood is in a way a forensic term, meaning basically this is how we base all of our jurisdiction really on. Because if I did a wrong in the past, I committed a crime, let's say, then in order for me to consider myself responsible for that crime, I must be conscious that it was me, a conscious being, it was me myself who made those mistakes or those crimes back in the day, right? So all of personhood is really, I mean, all of morality is hung upon personal identity. I hope this all makes sense. I lost it a little bit there. But I think the main thing to take away from here that I thought was interesting is that different concepts of identity over time. I mean, we have different concepts of identity over time dependent on what we're talking about. If we're talking about matter, or if we're talking about a man, or even a same person. So we have different concepts really here. So memory. Oh, thank you. I forgot about memory and consciousness. Do we remain responsible for past actions if we forget them? That's an excellent question, because according to Locke, um, if you weren't conscious doing something in the past, you should actually not be responsible for that act. He gives, for instance, if you were sleepwalking and accidentally killed someone, you're actually not responsible for that act. And it makes sense, right? If you're doing something without knowing that you're doing it, you should not be responsible. And he even gives the example of, but we still give responsibility. If a drunk man is unconscious, I mean, he's doing things unconsciously, and he doesn't remember them the next day, he should still be responsible in a way, right? But John Locke actually thinks that he shouldn't if he wasn't conscious, because that was really not him in a way. Does it make sense? Mistakes of law is no excuse. Certainly not. Oh well. So I hope it all made sense. Personal identity is a complex topic. But thank you so much for watching, everyone. I'm unsure if I will be able to have a live stream next week, on Sunday next week, since I might actually be going out sailing, which I'm excited for. But also, I wanted to mention that I hopefully will release an episode about euthanasia coming up soon. I've actually recorded the episode. I just need a couple of days, or maybe I might be able to put it out tomorrow or the next day. And then I'm actually planning an episode on, what is it, climate change, which is indeed a very interesting topic. Climate change from the perspective of ethics. Let's see, where was I? Yeah, so climate change. And I actually think that I will be trying to make some more efforts in the research upon that topic. So it might be quite some time before I release that one, but that's actually a super exciting topic to discuss. Climate change from the perspective of philosophy, right? It's not so much discussed, right? I mean, we discuss climate change basically every day, but not from the perspective of philosophy. So, but without further ado, thank you so much for watching, everyone. Take care until the next one.